welcome to the BWI Daily Edition. I'm your host, Frank Carr. Bit of out of my element here, out of Pine Grove Studio B. I'm actually at my family's house for a holiday party. So we're going to do our best here, but of course, Penn State finds their defensive coordinator on Saturday when you're visiting your family, right? So just wanted to give you a quick scouting report of what I saw today when I was looking up Manny Diaz and some of the work I've done previously with Miami before working with Blue White Illustrated full-time. One of the biggest things that Penn State head coach James Franklin talked about when he was trying to tell us what he was looking for in a defensive coordinator was structurally he wanted everything to remain the same. He wanted to run a similar style of defense. There wasn't going to be a massive change. And with Manny Diaz, the new defensive coordinator, former head coach at Miami, that's exactly what he's getting. 4 down front, likes to run 5 in coverage a lot, plays a very similar style of attacking, fast-flowing defense. And especially at that edge defender position, what Penn State has been historically under Brent Pry over the last 6 years was getting lots of sacks, attacking the quarterback, making negative plays that way. Now, they did, and James Franklin talked about this year, where they went more away from that and more to quarterback contain on the defensive side of the ball. We'll see what Diaz does there and how that changes, if it does, with Franklin and with Diaz working together. Or, as he said earlier this year, wanted a defensive head coach to run that side of the ball. If Diaz runs his scheme and his system, which is about attacking, it's about pressure, and Penn State, similarity of personnel up front as far as 3 techniques, they're attacking physical players. I would say Miami is even a little more aggressive, where they have even more penetrators on the interior at the defensive tackle position, where Penn State was skewing a little bit more over time towards having more of a traditional one technique, more of that big-bodied run stuffer. Miami, all their guys can run. And especially on the long defensive line, that's what they were known for, from Jalen Phillips to Greg Rousseau to the guys they put in the NFL, Quincy Roche. They have been very productive at that edge defender position. When it comes to coverages, I think this is an interesting situation for James Franklin, where I think if you watch Penn State football, traditionally they're very zone heavy. They're a team that wants to play multiple coverages on the back end, but be safe for the most part. Keep the play in front of you. Don't give up the big play, and attack that way. The biggest difference to me, outside of some personnel tweaks, is that at Miami, Manny Diaz played man coverage a lot of press man coverage, much more aggressive overall. I think with that pressure up front, they wanted to shorten the clock for quarterbacks, and then they wanted to play press man coverage and shut down receivers and players in the passing game. So that's going to be something I'm looking for going forward, is does Diaz do that at Penn State? I felt like Brent Pry was getting a little more aggressive in that area last season with some different personnel. Brisker and Tariq Castro-Fields, a redshirt senior at the time, felt like they took a couple more risks in that area, but still, on the whole, played zone coverage, played cover 3, more cautious defense than anything. Blitzing, still kind of getting into that, but I think it's relatively the same, maybe a little bit more aggressive from Brent Pry in certain situations. But the other major difference, I'd say, from a personnel standpoint, is Diaz ran 5 defensive backs quite a bit. A true nickel defense where the slot defender is more of a corner than a linebacker. Now, no team and no system is 100% one or the other. They do play 3 linebackers at Miami, and they have had those base fronts with a Sam linebacker out there in the past. So that's going to be interesting to see some of those small areas of friction between the two systems. Nothing's going to be perfect, but how does that and those areas translate to the field for Penn State football now that Manny Diaz is Penn State's defensive coordinator and linebackers coach? And that last part is another part that I know, working and following some of the things with Miami, that was something fans were not happy with. Was the linebacker play at Miami was not what they were expecting, with Diaz being linebackers coach as the head coach and kind of that being a part of his DNA. So if he's the defensive coordinator and he has more of a hands-on approach at that position, does that change things? Is he going to be able to get better talent at Penn State at that position? Penn State has gotten high 4-star linebackers, especially those Sam linebackers that can then transition into the box. Does that improve with talent, or is that something that is a profile under Manny Diaz as a defensive coordinator? So all of those things are going to be interesting for me to follow along with, and now you kind of have what I'm looking at when it comes to Manny Diaz and what he does and some of the differences from what James Franklin might want and some of the areas that are going to be interesting to follow along with Penn State football. Overall, this is a good defensive coordinator. This is a very good defensive hire. So for Penn State fans that were wondering what was going on, what was happening, Penn State went out. They were aggressive. They got a former head coach to come run their defense. And I think this is a great get for Penn State football. James Franklin not backing down in the arms race in college football, getting Manny Diaz to come and coach his defense. So quick BWI Daily Edition. We'll have more on Monday. Make sure you stay tuned for that. We'll have more information. We'll have more reaction from the guys over at Blue White Illustrated. But that'll do it for now. I'm your host, Thomas Frank Carr. Happy holidays.